Hello and welcome. I am Steve Clemons, editor-at-large of The Hill. Thank you for joining us on day 2 of the Republican National Convention. This morning we focused on the big questions for voters around the country, especially in the battleground states. And now we're going to examine an issue that already impacts many Americans, but could affect many, many more in the next few months. That's affordable housing. As Americans go to the polls in 2020, many will still be feeling the economic fallout of the COVID crisis. Mass evictions are a looming possibility, and Americans are devoting more and more of their dwindling salaries to monthly housing costs. As these problems persist, affordable housing is a growing concern, one that could be a factor in the elections as well. This afternoon, we're going to take a look at the policy measures that can be put into place to ensure all Americans, especially those who are vulnerable, have access to safe and affordable homes. I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Enterprise Community Partners, for their support of today's event and conversations. We have a fantastic lineup of speakers to help us get smarter on this topic, including 2 mayors from very different regions of the U.S., advocates and housing experts. Before we get underway, a few housekeeping notes. You can tweet us at @TheHillEvents using the hashtag TheHillHousing2020. That's right, TheHillHousing2020. We're broadcasting live. We'll be taking your questions throughout the program. As with any live stream, you could experience occasional trouble with the video. Refreshing the page should, in most cases, fix the problem. My first guest today is John Giles, mayor of Mesa, Arizona. Mayor Giles has paid close attention to the issue of homelessness in his city, especially in his efforts to combat homelessness amongst our nation's veterans. He's also been focused on his quote-unquote next Mesa vision, which attempts to take his city to the next level on a number of fronts. Mayor Giles, it's a real pleasure to have you. I don't know what to call this room I'm in. I'm going to call it the Hill's Lair. So welcome to the Hill's Lair. I'm interested. I want to just commend you for a minute. Money.com, which I read, has called Mesa the best big city in the Southwest. So what's on the top of your dashboard? Where does affordable housing fit in your priority list in being dubbed the best big city in the Southwest?
Well, right now I think the whole country is our priority. Certainly, the health and safety of our community is paramount, tied to COVID. But we for a city to be successful, I think we strive to also be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. So it's nice to take whatever the issue du jour is and figure out how you can have a long-term legacy impact, get as many twofers as you can. So certainly we are focused on the health and safety of our community. Prior to COVID hitting, to answer your question, affordable housing was absolutely at the top of our list of priorities in our agenda. We are an old city and a new city, and a big city and a small city all at the same time. We sit next to the 5th largest city in the United States, which is Phoenix, but we're a city of over 500,000 people. We have an aging downtown, and we have brand new parts of our city as well that are developing. So we try to juggle priorities and do as much as we can at the same time. On the issue of affordable housing, the reason I mentioned that we're an older city is we've been adding a light rail connection between Phoenix into our downtown for the last few years. And that has allowed us to do a lot of redevelopment. And so in the course of bringing light rail to our downtown, we've been able to add over 3,700 affordable housing units, primarily LIHTC, tax credit type housing units. That has significantly, increased our inventory of affordable housing. That has also laid the foundation for a lot of market rate housing to come in along the light rail route as well. In addition, the city of Mesa administers a lot of federal funds tied to rent subsidies and voucher programs, over $13 million a year. And as part of our COVID outreach, we've allocated over $3 million to go into rental assistance programs specifically aimed at getting homeless individuals who are particularly at risk during the pandemic into housing where they can get wraparound services, Currently, the city of Mesa, we're buying about 85 motel rooms a night, aimed at getting the homeless population, again, into facilities and into programs where we can work with them and help ultimately get them into permanent housing.
Well, I saw, Mayor, Secretary Ben Carson commended you in the city for working with law enforcement to get homeless people into these apartments, which is a different question than affordable housing. But it's fascinating that this was on Secretary Carson's dashboard as something. And you talked about taking some of the CARES Act money that Mesa had received and making this a priority. I'm going to ask you a complicated question on this because we've heard different tug of war points over these issues, and we heard it last night at the Republican National Convention to some degree. Do these efforts become points of pride in Mesa, or do they become kind of the necessary burden that folks are sort of not that thrilled with? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
And the answer is yes. I mean, frankly, you get pushback, with anything you do, obviously. But I think Mesa is a particularly a compassionate community, and it's always been a kind of part of our DNA to be very involved in supporting the nonprofits and to be really a regional leader. A lot of our neighboring communities, we end up doing a lot of the nonprofit work is centered in Mesa and has a ripple effect throughout the region. So absolutely, there is some community pride attached to that legacy that we have as a community. And the pushback that we get, is I think it makes us better. I mean, we do have to be able to defend the financial reasons behind a lot of the good things that we do, and so that's helped us to be frugal and to be effective in the way that we are stewards of the CARES Act funding that we receive, but also the efforts that we make at creating permanent affordable housing projects in our city. Some of the neighborhoods where we have built affordable housing projects have objected, and they feel like we're trying to concentrate, poverty in one particular part of our community, and that's been a valuable conversation to have, and it has prompted us to also prioritize developing affordable housing projects throughout the community, and I think that's been a healthy discussion.
Now, recently, I've been fascinated with how cities grow, how they evolve, how they, basically take on, new character. The time I interviewed Mayor Bowser of Washington, D.C. recently about her affordable housing project, she said, Washington's become such an expensive place to live. The gentrification has been so large, and that's also a sign of success, of businesses coming in, et cetera. So you've got to kind of plan and make this happen. How do you, as a planner, as a city leader, get ahead of this? And how do you build in the notion that affordable housing is a natural and healthy part, and that kind of moving people through opportunity somehow gets the city to be, I think, it's really about sustainability, right?
Yes, and you do have to have a cogent story to tell, but particularly, as I described earlier, the situation where in the early stages of the light rail redevelopment, where along the light rail corridor, there was still affordable pieces of property that could be acquired for affordable housing. And the long-term plan was, yes, we are going to anchor these affordable housing projects along the light rail corridor because transit is an important asset when you're building affordable housing. But the plan is that as all the ships in the harbor rise and the property values in this area increase, ultimately we want to have a mix of housing. We want to have diversity in housing, and so that was the story that we've been telling for the last several years. And it takes exercising some faith to believe that the government is going to deliver on that plan, and that for example, this 6 mile stretch of light rail is not going to be just exclusively affordable housing projects from beginning to end. And so thankfully, now we're able to see that we have over 2,000 units of market rate housing that are coming in along the light rail corridor, because that's affordable housing projects are equally attracted to transit as well. So I think that gives us some credibility with the community. People can see that there wasn't a bait and switch, or we weren't exaggerating, what the city's plans were, or just offering excuses to get affordable housing projects into communities. And so now I'm anxious to deliver on the related challenge, which is to build affordable housing throughout the community, into other parts of our city where we have substandard housing that we want to replace with new affordable housing projects. So I think you do have to have a coherent plan, and you have to deliver so you can maintain the trust of the community.
Now, I've become sort of better read on your Twitter feed and looking at your tweets, which I've been enjoying. But one of them that caught my eye was you retweeting new rent and mortgage relief program assistance, and I guess as part of an Arizona grant program that was there. I don't know how hard Mesa has been hit by COVID. I don't know how many businesses have been suspended or paralyzed, what the scene is like there. I imagine it's like a lot of the rest of the country. And so you've got, folks that are, are getting unemployment or struggling with that and may not be able to pay rent. There may be moratoriums on evictions for right now, I know. But I think when you look at that equation, what does this assistance program do? And are you worried at all that when those moratoriums end, whether or not there's going to be just an avalanche that hits a big chunk of your community?
Absolutely. Well, to answer your question, yes, there is a statewide eviction and foreclosure moratorium in effect in Arizona, statewide. But that is going to lapse in October. And so we are kind of hunkering down, getting ready for the storm that we think we're going to experience in October. Also, there's a moratorium on shutting off utility services. And so that has created an equal problem in that we have the delinquencies in our utility accounts that are starting to become very problematic as well. So when the extreme heat in Arizona is over and the utility providers, can no longer justify their forbearance in turning off, the electricity for health reasons. Again, we're going to see a lot of problems at that point. So we are trying to budget some of our COVID assistance money for rental, for utility assistance to try to retire some of those delinquencies. But also getting ready for the onslaught of rental assistance claims that we're going to have when the moratorium is lifted in October. We're concerned about it, but again, we're trying to plan ahead and anticipate that that's what's going to happen.
Mayor, are these tensions? I mean, you talked about your community being a compassionate community, and those words really struck me. Because right now we have, economic hardship. We have hardship over racial and economic divides and concerns about police brutality in various parts of the country. And we have a health crisis. When you have all those elements of a storm hitting so many places in the country, are you finding any things about Mesa and how you're interacting with the public to be in a healthier track than some of the other things we're seeing on the nation right now?
Well, I am proud of our community. I'm proud of the way they've responded to this challenge. I don't know if we're tolerating things better or worse than other communities in the country because I'm so focused on Mesa. Certainly, I think we all need to admit to ourselves that this is very hard, and that the children in our community and the families in our community. We're all kind of in Mesa. We talk about how we brag about our humility, which is kind of a ironic way of saying that our attitude here is we just kind of shut up and put our head down and get things done. And that's probably a characteristic that's not uncommon in other communities. But I think occasionally it's important for us to take a pause and say, wait a minute, this is really hard, and we need to be aware of the toll that this is taking on the mental and the emotional health of our community, particularly the children in our community. Right now, Mesa, like I think probably the rest of the country is really struggling with this issue of what do we need, what's the responsible answer to sending our kids back to school. We know that their emotional and mental health, is really suffering with the lack of interaction and the lack of academic, challenges as well. But at the same time, we obviously have to be responsible about exposing the adults in the equation to health risks. So we're really on the horns of a dilemma, like the rest of the country, trying to figure out what's the responsible balance to strike on the school issue, and then yes, it's been hard for our small business people. Yes, it's been hard for everyone to be under quarantine and affected to a large extent. All of the great summer programs that we're typically involved in. I mean, with the city of Mesa usually has an amazing summer aquatics program, and thousands of kids, are using our many city pools, and it's just a very fun time, as it is, I guess, throughout the country, to be a part of summer activities. All of that has been taken away. We have a huge arts program, a beautiful world-class arts center. It's shuttered. Our libraries similarly, and so, yes, we're a tough and resilient and compassionate community, but I think occasionally we need to acknowledge how hard this is, and make sure that we're addressing those emotional and mental health needs in our community.
Right. Well, thank you. Well, Mayor, we have a question from the audience for you. Jude?
Hi, my name is Jude Hunts, and I'm the Outreach Manager for Habitat for Humanity of Kansas City. And my question this day is this. Does the Republican Party have a comprehensive plan to address affordable housing issues in the nation? What are the specific proposals for addressing affordable housing needs?
Mayor?
Well, I am a Republican, but I'm not a part of the Republican platform drafting apparatus. So I can tell you that my understanding is absolutely the Republican Party has a keen eye for the obvious. And we know that affordable housing is a huge challenge in every city in the United States, but particularly fast-growing cities like the city of Mesa. So speaking for the state of Arizona and the city of Mesa, we do have an aggressive affordable housing plan here. We have a master plan that we adopt, a housing master plan that we recently adopted that has a strategic game plan for how we can address the stresses that we're experiencing with the fact that we're a very fast-growing community, and our housing stock, particularly the capital A affordable housing and lower A affordable housing stock, is under intense pressure. So as I indicated earlier, we are in the midst of building a lot of new housing. A lot of it is multifamily housing for kind of the workforce type housing. We are actively working with partners on tax credit, affordable subsidized housing. As I indicated earlier, the city of Mesa administers over $13 million in rent subsidies each year, and over the past several months, that we've added a few $1 million to that in COVID-related housing subsidies as well.
Right. Well, Mayor Giles, I really appreciate the deep dive into all of this. I've been to Mesa, Arizona. I love it. I look forward to going back. I'm irritated by your backdrop and those great saguaro cactus there that are just kind of a tease to all of us. So thank you for the tease.
Thank you. I'd love to have you and lots of visitors. Mesa is a great place to visit. Look forward to visiting with you.
Well, Mayor, thank you so much for joining us today.